Good morning, everybody. My name is Pearl Masucha. I'm the Acting Managing Exec for Retail and Logistics within Vodacom. I'd like to welcome everybody to the second in a series of the post-COVID retail webinars, together with our consulting partners, Deloitte. It's a jam-packed agenda today, and I'm certain that we will provide you with some nuggets of information that will help each of our customers, whether retail or FMCG, with some information that will help you and your organization in your phygital strategy recalibration. I'd like to highlight the fact that we do have a Q&A panel on the right-hand corner of your screens. So for any questions during the presentation, we welcome you to post them there, and we will go through them at the end of the presentations. Presenters will be available to take your questions. While the digital requirement within the retail has been there since 2010, the South African retailers have always been laggards in terms of the online migration. And even though with the push from the millennials, this has not always been a strategy that they've basically driven very aggressively. COVID, however, has propelled them with this as a black swan event that caused them to that forced them to basically start fast-tracking their digital presence. The sudden massive acceleration has revealed some cracks in some of the strategies that had already previously been applied. And these would basically talk to the scalability of the infrastructure to allow the physical and the online presence to coexist in one platform seamlessly to provide that seamless experience for the customers. The engagement capability to allow our customers to be able to get that hyper-personalized offers and promotions that speak specifically to them, as well as to enable social distancing within the physical environment. Today, we'll be going through some of the areas that our retailers would need to go through as they basically look at the shopping mania that's about to basically happen within the South African landscape as we basically address the Black Friday pandemonia, the Cyber Monday, and the festive season shopping. So with that, I have a panel of presenters that will basically talk to some of the insights from our previous experiences around the customer shopping journey, as well as some of the insights coming from globally into South Africa as to how to refine some of the strategies that we've already got in place. I'd like to look at some of the basically highlight the presentation that I've got at the moment as to what are the things that our customers are starting to look for, right? Given the fact that we are now starting to push the future consumer into the present. Customers are starting to talk to things like, I want my retailer to know me. And that speaks to the insights that the retailers would need to glean in order to personalize some of the customer's experience, whether it be in a physical environment as well as the digital platform. They want to be engaged with. Feedback is absolutely important in this environment because it basically helps us to refine our experiences and how we serve our customers into the future so that we can acquire new customers and retain the existing ones. Our customers want to be heard when there is a challenge, whether it be on the sales floor or on the digital platform. They want the retailers to be able to change as nimbly and as agilely as possible in order to basically give them a seamless experience. Empower me. We're starting to see the prevalence of AR and VR, where our customers can virtually touch and feel some of the merchandise that they can no longer see physically in the store. So VR and AR start becoming a prevalence in this environment, and we're seeing our retailers starting to basically migrate towards digital change rooms as opposed to physical change rooms on an online platform. And last but not least, our customers want to be delighted. So in order to keep them coming back to our stores. They want to be delighted. They want to have an experience that keeps them coming back over and over and over again. And once they've purchased our products, they want to find a way in which, if they're not happy with the product, they are capable to return it. So reverse logistics becomes absolutely important, so that that experience from purchase to enjoyment to returning becomes absolutely seamless. With that, our panel will be talking to some of these areas that I've spoken to. And I would then like to welcome Aika, who's an Associate Director of Consumer and Marketing Insights at Deloitte, our partner consulting in consulting for the retail vertical, to the floor. So just to give you a little bit of a breakdown background on Aika. Aika has been her focus has been on all aspects relevant to the customer, including disciplines such as experience and customer service design, CRM and CVM insights. She's got more than 25 years of experience, which includes executive level roles for leading blue chip organizations. Her strengths are not only in strategic planning, but also in execution, with a proven track records and implementations across all aspects of the customer management experience. Aika's experience also includes years of business analysis and development. And with that, I would like to welcome Aika to the floor so she can basically give us some of the insights from a global and a local perspective as to how post-COVID has changed or accelerated the digital journey for our customers. Welcome, Aika.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. I'm excited. So my portion of our webinar today handles freshly released insights from our Deloitte Global Consumer Tracker. And this tracker is available. I'll share the link with you. South Africa, I'm going to highlight some of the things that are relevant to South Africa. So the good news is that since April, Deloitte has been tracking consumers, not just their sentiment and their behavior, but also their intent. And we have managed to add South Africa to this so that we can compare the South African consumer and then their retail and their intent to purchase. And I'm going to share some of the insights with you. There's some more information that is available on this link here on the side. But the four key takeouts that I want to share today in the 10, 15 minutes that I have is that I don't think there's any surprise to anybody that anxiety levels are still high. And there is a lot of rumors, again, that we might be going into a little more lockdown situation. Europe is going into lockdown. But I think in essence, for South Africa, there are concerns. And what we are seeing is that at the moment, South Africa is amongst the third highest of these 19 countries that they are sitting, just under Ireland and India. And, if you look at the map, it really is around financial and health. When you dig into this and into the heat map, it's very interesting that the number one thing compared to some of the other countries that are all worried about COVID is that our consumers are worried about their money. They're worried about payments, making payments. They're worried about their jobs and employment. And yes, then they are worried about their kids, their families, and their friends. So that then leads to the second key, takeout, which is how is that going to influence, their spending? And, it's very difficult. We often get asked, so what do you predict for this festive season, Aika? And you've been in retail and you've been part of Takealot. Do you think we are going to see a frenzy? And my view to that is we can look, and we've asked our customers, what is your intent? But we don't have a glass ball. And on the one side, I'm saying customers are going to pull back a little bit because they are worried about their money and they're going to focus on less discretionary items. But on the other hand, it might also be that customers feel, I've been in lockdown for so many months, I do feel I want to reward myself because I haven't had that holiday, I haven't had, that little bit of splurge. And we might see customers that are then spending a little bit more. But it is going to be very interesting how this season is going to pan out. When you look at the intent, after we've asked customers, they're saying we are going to not necessarily spend on things. Well, we know they're not going to be traveling as much. They're not going to go to their normal holiday destinations. We do see that, the things that they are going to continue to spend on are groceries, household items, and their medicine. The stuff in the middle, which is kind of, neither here nor there, and people have started buying clothing and electronics again. We might see things around furniture because people have got to look at their home office and their home setup and their environment, and they have been in their homes for quite a while. But when we asked the consumers, they were saying, we are going to do less of these things. I think what is interesting, slightly different from the rest of the world, is that South Africa's consumers, almost 60% are okay to go back into stores, into retail stores. But the majority are all globally and here are saying, we're not comfortable yet to attend big events or taking flights or going on that holiday. They're also a little bit reluctant to do restaurants, but they are engaging in takeaways. And we know as South Africans, we do like the delivery. Children are going back to school, but here's the thing that says consumers will be going into store for the festive season. They are returning back to their workplace, and they are engaging with service providers again, pulling back a little bit on some of the holiday spend. If you look at online shopping then, so if they say they are going to go into store, and we used to have South Africans, especially in some of our big city areas, on weekends, we would go and visit the malls. So how is online shopping going to pan out potentially, and what are the behaviors that we think is going to happen with the intention? I think one of the important things is that the adoption of this in the different categories, there's a difference between how and what they are shopping and their needs. So for example, they can wait for certain electronic devices a day or two, but when it gets to groceries, that need for urgent delivery is a lot less. They can't wait. Now, we looked at pre-COVID, we saw that there in Africa was a huge potential growth opportunity. And if you look at countries like Nigeria, but in South Africa, it was less, what's the word, buoyant, I think. And there were various factors, barriers like cost of data for consumers, the large investment by big for platforms, and then the small margins. We saw that most companies were not pursuing a heavy digital strategy. And as recently as February this year, Forrester indicated South Africa, the dark green, compared to India, the light green. Our readiness was moderately attractive. And it's not because of the consumer. On this side of the graph, or the Forrester graph, you'll see the dark green. The consumers are ready, except this is the data element. And this side is your economic indicators in the retail. And here, India is leagues ahead of South Africa. And that was the reason why, and we do believe why a lot of companies were kind of considering it, but because of the barriers, they were waiting. When you look then at what happened from March. So from March, where this line is, and South Africa falls into the orange line here at the top, you can see we literally leapfrogged into a new level of interaction and engagement. And it's flattening out purely because of people worried about their finances. So it's stabilized a little bit. But I think the key message is that the barriers consumers have experienced and sampled e-commerce, and they are willing to explore it. Things that were worrying them: how do I pay? How do I deliver? How do I return? How do I engage? They have now experienced that. And we are seeing that when we go into the market analysis, and there's some great information that is available at sites here and sources here at the bottom at statista.com about the categories. And this was in June, July, still based on the 2019. But if you look at the categories, and that's why I was saying how consumers are adopting categories are slightly different. This was based on the 2019, and you see electronics and media, so South Africa, 31%, furniture, 21, hobbies, then fashion and food and personal care. based on the lockdown, I do think this pie diagram has shifted slightly. And we do see that we've seen, an increase of almost 40%, the market grew. Now, globally, it shows similar electronics, clothing at the top, and where consumers are moving from in-store into online. That adoption is happening. When we ask the South African consumers, in the next 4 weeks, what do you intend and where are you cutting back? And it's interesting here, they are saying that we are cutting back going into restaurants. But if you consider the channels, in store is this kind of an aqua green, and then they are moving increasingly to online and getting deliveries. And then on this side, electronics, less shopping, but we are moving online, similar furniture and similar the fashion components. So what we are seeing is the things that they are pulling back on that they used to spend quite a bit and they were shopping this in store, they are now pulling back a little bit, but they are spending online. Now, you can say, so what does all of this mean for retailers and SMEs when they are considering how should we focus on digital commerce? Number one, consumers are going to shop value and they are going to look for baskets and good deals. So there are opportunities to create value and realize the margins are low, but look at the next thing, which is your ecosystems and your supply chain. How do you look at partnering, doing who is good at what, and how can you look at the supply chain and taking some of the cost out of that? Then focus on specific categories. As I mentioned, consumers have different needs for different categories, and we've seen where they are pulling back and they're moving into certain channels. Then design for convenience. It really is, in the online world, if a consumer has sampled a platform or an app or a website or a commerce engagement, they do want convenience, easy, not just to navigate through it, but then what is that fulfillment experience? And they will go back to those. So it's super important that when we design, we look at designing for the consumer. Pace it. Make sure that you pace it not just in your offerings and your categories, but also in your marketing. And be mindful that when you build it, there's a lot of myths. They won't necessarily come. You do have to market, and you have to have a combination of discounts and marketing and push and pull. And then lastly, it is not just about automation and pushing the customer to self-service. You do need to be mindful of your operations and delivering that exceptional online customer experiences. So those are the few things I'd like to leave you with. And then we will make available but access to this global tracker. I think the exciting bit that we will in the next 3 weeks, we have gone into market as Deloitte South Africa with a specific online shopping research piece, and we wanted to understand the lower income groups. So at the end of probably November, we will be sharing these insights in conjunction with this global tracker so that it gives us a little bit more guidance for our South African retail industry and consumer clients. So thank you, Paul. I'll wait for the question and answer section.
Very much, Aika. Please don't leave us yet. We do have a Q&A section that we would like you to basically participate in. With that, guys, I'd like to highlight the fact that there is a poll running on the right-hand screen on the right-hand side of your screens. If you could basically just respond to those questions so that it helps us in refining the rest of the series of our webinars so that we can basically cater to your absolute requirements. With that, I would like to basically then introduce Pavesh, who will then start talking to the use cases that Aika referred to in her presentation, because this is not just airy-fairy hypothetical situations, but there is real life cases as to where some of these solutions have been implemented and have helped our retailers to start accelerating on their journeys, marketing journeys, as well as their customer retention. So just to give you a bit of a rundown about Pavesh, she's got 16 years of experience in the ICT management environment and has been heading up IoT sales and product functions within Africa in itself, not just South Africa. He's highly motivated and understands the intrinsic value of the platform and for businesses, and is a very strong digital leader and has basically worked on such projects as Wi-Fi in the car, which Toyota has now implemented, and is very keen to help you with your digital strategy. So with that, I would like to then introduce Pavesh Govender, who is the IoT sales and product marketing exec at Vodacom Business.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, good morning, Paul. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, and thank you for the introduction. And thank you for everybody for making the time this morning. Aika and Paul alluded to the shift in retail and how do we seize the opportunity. And this morning, what I would take the time to is to look at 3 different companies and how do we, it's not a question of physical versus digital, and how do we bring these 2 worlds together to actually experience the phygital aspect of retail going forward. And just taking through it, I mean, omnichannel has been a great buzzword within the retail space for years now, but now with phygital, it actually not seeing it as 2 separate worlds, which is physical and digital, but it's taking it a step further and taking it where you amalgamate these 2 worlds into one to curate an end-to-end experience. So it's really about bringing these 2 worlds together to speak to our customers in a consistent way and allow them to create a differentiated customer experience across the board. 3 companies in particular that I'd like to focus on is a company out of the US, and with Black Friday coming, I think this is a really interesting case study around how did they adapt their go-to-market strategy for the most important retail day in the year to take a slightly different approach. For those of you who don't know Ray is an outdoor apparel company. They employ over 12,000 employees in the US, so fairly large company. Started out by trying to make outdoor experiences and apparel affordable to the everyday consumer. And what they did was they decided to close down during Black Friday, actually, and they started a digital campaign called Opt Outside. If those of you want to Google it, it's been running for a couple of years now, hugely successful. And the idea was to say, let's take our consumers and get them to experience our products and services and therefore opt outside because they're an outdoor apparel company. And what they've done is they basically they shut down online retail and in-store retail for the day of Black Friday. And they created experiences where for that their customers can experience in the outdoors during Black Friday. And they saw massive success. So the campaign that they ran, basically they give all 12,000 employees the day off to experience the outdoors with their customers. So it's basically creating outdoor experiences that their customers can come in and enjoy with their employees. And the impact of the program such as that was phenomenal. I mean, over 1.4 million people in the US have signed up for it over the years, growing. 170 companies actually participated, companies like Google, Subaru, all participating to create more experiential aspects of how to consume their products and services. And then from a social and digital impact perspective, more than 7,000 social media impressions, over 2.7 billion media impressions, all in 24 hours of launching this campaign. And this is, we're seeing a brand take a step further and say, it's not just about physical and it's not just about retail, but how do we create and merge these 2 worlds to create different experiences so that customers can engage with our brand differently over the period. And this is a time where Black Friday, everybody is looking to, create mass volume of transactions, either in store or through digital platforms. This is a way a brand has taken to reshape the way the consumers see them as an entity and allow them to to experience a bit of the outdoors and experience the products and services in the setting that it was meant to be. They've turned it into an annual event now. It's been running for about 5 years with massive adoption and growing participation rate year on year. So this is really about how brands are taking a different approach around using digital to create these campaigns, to engage with their consumers and get their buy-in, and then using the physical aspects by still saying, we want you to experience it differently. If you look at the statistics in the retail market in the US, which is one of the biggest retail markets in the world, 69% of all retail sales start online. But however, 49% of all consumers still prefer the in-store experience or a physical experience around to experience the products and services. And this is a way that you could, and this is how Phygital can actually bring these two worlds together. And then taking a different approach from outdoor apparel to high-end luxury goods store, Burberry. I mean, they're forerunner around in transforming their retail experience and their brand experience using Phygital. And this has transformed the way their online platforms work by creating digital catwalks where you can customize and build made-to-order services within the brand. So really focusing on customization through digital, and then changing the in-store experience with augmented and virtual reality. And this has created a differentiated brand experience for their customers. And they're able to actually adopt a younger market segment that not necessarily would have experienced their brand. You can try on outfits digitally as you enter the store. If you look to the right, you can see digital sort of catwalks. And their first major flagship Phygital store will be launching this year in Shenzhen in China. And they've seen retail revenues grow from them, double-digit growth, and they've actually doubled their revenue as a company between the 2013 and 2020 timeframes. So you're seeing massive adoption of the brand, and it's a brand that was seen to be sort of formal and legacy, and they've managed to revitalize and speak to a younger audience around their brand experience. People that couldn't afford their brand can now walk into stores and experience it and look at what it would be to try it on different and create unique offers or an outfit for themselves. So speaking to a younger generation. So now they're able to capture the millennials and the youngsters and introduce them to the brand and hold them through their lifespan, which is a powerful experience on how you can revitalize the brand, merging technology, merging customer experience, as well as quality retail products and services. Looking at this and taking it a step further, Sonos is an audio home equipment company, one of the leading audio home equipment companies in the world, really known for their physical products, but not known for their software. And this is where they created sound experiences centers within their stores, what they call sound booths, sound auditoriums within their store environments across the world within their retail footprint. And this was what they created or curated for their customers, was a way that they could come into store, create interaction with their software and how their software actually integrates within their physical products to create unique experiences. And what they used for this was they were able to collect data around, what were people preferred, what personas people, what genre of music, and how did that genre interact with the experience and the happiness of their customers. And they use this data to create new products and services and take it to market. And Sonos has seen a massive revitalization in sales and customer experience, and their brand perceptions changed over the period. So really positive interaction, and showing how not just high-end brands, but also brands like for the everyday person are revitalizing their go-to-market and how they speak to their customers to change a brand experience. because it's really about creating unique experiences for your customers and using technology. And it's not just about physical or digital. And although I can relate it to the mass adoption for online platforms and digital, but physical stores and creating digital experiences within physical stores is really the next wave. And that's where Phygital comes in. And that's why we believe, in us helping our customers to create and curate these experiences. We can help transform your go-to-market, your brand experience, and brand perception around how customers perceive you to be. And this speaks to the way millennials, want to be spoken to, and the way that retail's moving in the future. So, some of the parting words and how to look at it, everything old is new again, is basically, it's not just about, it's not that physical is dead and physical stores are dead. It's about how do we reshift the in-store experience so that we speak to both worlds. And this is, where the importance of adopting a phygital strategy. And there's multiple use cases of stores. If you look at companies like Amazon Go, which was largely an online digital platform, but now they're moving into the physical space and creating digital experiences within store. Nike and Timberland with their digital walls and interactive walls and how people can experience their products. So you're seeing legacy brands as well as new age brands shifting the way they speak to their customers. And it's not omni-channel experiences versus phygital strategy. It's really about the mergence of two, because with omni-channel, it was really about creating a digital experience and speaking to customers in the way that they wanted to speak to. But with youngsters and millennials, they don't see the difference between physical and digital, and the lines are blurred. And that's where Phygital comes into place. It's really about merging these two worlds to create a consistent consumer experience journey across the two worlds. And then looking at disrupting the buyer's journey. How do you disrupt your buyer's journey using the technology that's on offer, using the channels and the platforms that you can speak to your customers, but creating unique experiences and unique buying journeys. And don't be afraid to think outside of the box. I think that's the important thing. And that's where partners like Voda can really help you guys. We share best practice and share what we're seeing work and helping you create that, because we're on a transformational journey of creating marketplaces of the future. And this is something that we can really work to redefine your brand experience within the setting of your retail environment. And whether you're a small retailer or whether you're large scale, but how do you adopt these and take it to a different level that we can really partner with you guys on this. Thank you very much. Paul, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Pravesh. So what I'm hearing from you guys, from the presentations that are coming through, is that some phygital considerations that we've got to take into account as we basically merge the physical and the digital experience for the customer. So with the next presentation, we'll start hearing more about providing the relevant payment options for the customers, whether they're transacting and engaging with you in the store or in the online experience. We're also talking about the visibility of stock for customers to basically ensure that we deliver the experience and the products that we've promised them. So visibility end to end starts becoming very, very important. Also, just providing the customer with the ability to start their shopping experience online, seeing the products that they want to basically get, and providing them with the ability to click and collect. So I will buy online and then I will collect in store or at the nearest outlet where I can get my stock. Last but not least, providing that seamless reverse logistics for our customers. Whoever thought that we would ever have digital dressing rooms? So well done to Burberry and their innovative thinking. With the next piece, I'd like to introduce three of our partner presenters. We've got Riaz from our partner, IoT.next. IoT.next is part of the Vodacom family that specializes on the making the vision come real, right? We've got Riaz, Karodia, who's a technical sales specialist at IoT.next. And he basically helps customers with producing commercial propositions and financial cases to help drive the digital journey within the organization. He's focused on helping customers to drive them with their digital transformation, supporting the implementation, as well as boosting their current strategies and basically providing that out of the box thinking that the customers can basically start realizing within their stores. Riaz has a master's degree in engineering, so he is quite a knowledgeable guy when it comes to the nuts and bolts, and he will be partnering with Paulo de Souza, who is also from our family entity, which is Xlink, and he's very passionate about the digital payment options that we're providing the customers while giving them the experience seamlessly end to end. Last but not least, we've got the head of sales from Xlink as well, Nomonde, who will then be talking to how we basically provide that safe but secure environment within which our customers can transact in store. So with the COVID pandemic, it's become absolutely more paramount that we ensure that our customers can transact and engage with us in a safe and secure environment, managing the queues, making sure that the environment within which we transact does not expose them to the pandemic. With that, I would like to introduce Riaz, Paulo, and Nomonde to the floor. Welcome, guys.
Thank you, Pearl. Thank you so much. Lovely introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Pearl. I'm Riaz Karodia. I'm from IoT.next, and we focus a lot on the IoT solutions that customers can deploy in that retailers can deploy in their retail outlets or their stores, right? Traditionally, and in the past, the last quarter of the financial year typically is the most busiest for retailers, and you see a large number of customers flocking at a lot of these stores, and Black Friday is one of those events where we know we're going to expect a lot of customers coming to the stores. Now, it is at this point most important for retailers to ensure that their customers that enter those stores are entering a safe space, a safe environment, and the employees are also entering a safe environment. And what I'm going to be focusing on is how IoT ensures that we can actually deliver on that vision for customers. With the past lockdown, the first wave, there are currently talks about a second wave that's possibly coming through, and retailers are looking at how they can deploy technological solutions to assist them in ensuring that they have a safe retail space. So moving on from that, if we look at video analytics, video analytics is something that can be easily deployed in a retail outlet, right? So, and retailers can use their existing CCTV cameras to monitor occupancy. That's one of the significant requirements within this lockdown to ensure that social distancing regulations are adhered to. And the way we at IoT.next do that is through monitoring the CCTV cameras. So with that, we can provide occupancy monitoring for retailers to ensure that they adhering to all of these social distancing regulations. But another interesting thing that spins off from this is to allow customers to look at how busy each of these retail stores are throughout the day. So using data analytics and the live data coming through from the cameras, we're able to say, okay, right, we can predict that, you know what, our peak busy periods are probably between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock throughout the day. They can quickly go onto an app and see exactly what time they want to go shopping, for example. That's the first thing. The second thing is they also have a good overview of how many occupants are in that store live. So they know when they're entering a safe environment and if they should enter a safe environment. But it doesn't stop right there now, right? So another requirement for retailers is to ensure that the customers that enter that store are adhering to social distancing requirements, such as wearing masks, for example, and maintaining relevant thermal temperatures, right? And the way that's typically carried out is by using either a handheld scanner or a temperature scanner within a store. But how do we take that technological investment right now and use it for gain in the future? Well, we found an innovative way of doing that by targeting ads. So if you're scanning a person that's entering a specific store, you can see who they are, what their demographics are, and you can target specific ads towards them. So for example, if it's a younger person, you can target ads that are relevant to a younger person, and if it's older people, you can target ads relevant to older people. That's the first thing. The second thing is understanding the types of customers that enter your store also enables you to create specific promotions in real time in the stores. So if you have a large majority of younger people in store, that in real time you can quickly target in-store ads, in-store promotions to target it at those specific customers, right? And that's where crowd analytics comes into a certain degree, right? So now while customers move throughout the store, the next thing that they want to know, and there's a lot of retailers that are currently implementing digital solutions. So allowing customers to use their cell phones to find items within a store firstly. And secondly, allowing customers to use their cell phones to see what current live inventory levels look like. And the way that's achieved is by using specific inventory monitoring solutions. That's why IoT also plays a significant role in allowing customers to quickly see on their phones what live stock levels look like, when stock needs to be replenished. So from a retailer's perspective, like we know now going into this Black Friday period, retailers want to ensure that their shelves are always stocked. And retailers can do this by ensuring that they're constantly monitoring their stock levels on the shelves and ensure that their packers are packing the right amount of stock on the shelves. That's one way of looking at it as well. Another thing from movement analytics focuses on how occupants are moving throughout the store. So for space utilization and space optimization, you can position specific items in the store more effectively depending on how quickly you want to sell each of those items, right? So that focuses a lot on the video analytics part of it, right? But now, while a customer is moving throughout the store, the next thing that you probably want to focus on is queue management, to ensure that the customers can stand in the queue, do not spend too much of time in the queues, and they also check out relatively quickly, right? And the way we do this is by monitoring the queues, monitoring the number of people in the queues, and in real time updating the tellers to ensure that we have the right amount of tellers to reduce the queue time, right? All right, so that basically focuses a lot on what IoT is doing for the industry right now. For retailers, if you look at the entire customer journey, IoT basically allows retailers to better plan their stores. And like I said, with the possibility of a new lockdown coming in, retailers want to be able to manage their stores in real time. So if they need to shut down specific sections of their stores, if they need to shut down specific tellers, if they need to maintain occupancy levels, they can quickly go to a single dashboard and make all of these changes. So that's basically what IoT can do for the retail sector. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Paulo Nomonde, who's going to walk you through what happens after a teller checks out and what that journey looks like going forward.
Brilliant. Thank you, Riaz. Mine up there. Okay. So thank you. Yeah. So basically on mine, see if it's coming up there. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So thank you, Ria. So looking at where Xlink's playing, it's having a look at that tech to create that in-store experience. And obviously, we've looked at the 4 areas which I'll take you guys through, which you can see on the screen. And we've got basically the end-to-end management of those digital touch points. And this is obviously culminates in the endpoint, which is the payments at the point of sale on checkout. So what we need to do is fundamentally understand what builds this customer loyalty and retention during the new sort of conditions that these retailers find themselves in that context of COVID-19. So as you can see on the screen, we've got multiple touch points where technology can be applied, as Riaz mentioned. So these foundational blocks that Xlink is developing is obviously paving the way forward for the retailers in this context. And we believe that the platform perspective, where the consumers interact with us, will be both on an app and an in-store level, and sometimes simultaneously. On the second point, you've got the creating the operational efficiencies that Riaz also touched on. And obviously the strong in-store ecosystem is fundamental, and it's obviously required. And some of those examples are the digital inventory management. We've obviously got the self-checkouts and the congestion monitoring. That's just to name a few. And obviously this will bring it all together. And this will help us obviously look at that low-touch retail environment, and obviously how this will be brought in a sustainable fashion. The third one is obviously implementing that customer satisfaction measures. So through those personalized experiences that are contextual to a customer and coherent in their buying journey, will make all the difference to the overall perception and their continued support. So if you look at examples of this, those customer feedback and customer shopping experiences or even a service experience will obviously translate in valuable data that obviously we can mine going forward. The last but not least is obviously enablement of that secure payments and seamless checkout. Now, one of the examples that I've looked at is obviously allowing a consumer to use, for example, their mobile phone to scan items during their shopping experience to create less friction at the checkout, where they can adopt that self-checkout kiosk scenario. So if we look at taking this approach, this will obviously give the customer a sense of a safe environment in which they choose to shop. All right, let's get down. Sorry, guys. So again, bringing it all together, apologies for that. So if you look at the two that Xlink actually focus on, we're looking at that secure payment acceptance and the self-service kiosk. And obviously just taking a leaf out of Pervesh's Phygital explanation, it's definitely combining those two worlds and making the most of them. So what we're trying to do is add that digital approach to that classical retail experience. So if you look at, you know, all the kind of points on the right-hand side there, which is the marketplace right down until the COVID-19 experience, we found that there's a very strong e-commerce adoption. And obviously, no doubt, this has obviously taken a very crucial toll on traditional sales. But we've seen a new trend of e-retailers actually opening up physical stores as centers of inspiration. And this obviously allows them to boost their visibility and sales. So one example that obviously I can relate to is obviously an augmented reality showroom, which obviously Pervesh has touched on as well, where it allows the customer to immerse themselves in that buying process of that product and helping them to customize this thing down to every detail. Obviously, enabling that customer to have that full power. To add to another example is obviously the Audi showroom in Beijing. They've obviously implemented the augmented reality there. So for me, in order to bring this all together and to create that seamless retail experience, you know, those foundation blocks need to be in place. And obviously, I've got 5 points that obviously I think is quite crucial to an in-store retail experience. Now, one of them is the cashierless shopping. And obviously, where we've touched on the augmented reality and virtual reality as well. The third point is obviously the communication channels via location-based push notifications. And then 4, live chat functionality across those platforms. I mean, I believe this market's actually growing quite rapidly. And then 5, personalization is also key, especially in every aspect to when we're actually engaging those customers on these digital platforms. So yeah, in closing, I mean, obviously this ultimately all leads to, you know, the payments and the customer's ability to check out seamlessly. Obviously, Xlink leads the market in this space, providing those efficient, cost-effective, tailored, and secure managed payment solutions, you know, which enable that handoff. Our customer-centric approach has placed us in good stead, and obviously to respond to that ever-evolving landscape, especially in this COVID-19 umbrella. That's it from me. I'll hand over to Namonde. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paulo. And also just to speak to Paulo's point, in fact, before I start, I hope everyone can see my screen. But what I'm excited about with today's webinar is that while the topic is phygital and speaks to really the culmination of the physical and digital world, at the heart of it is really the pandemic, COVID, to say, how do retailers navigate this sort of context, and how do they navigate it in a way that makes the consumer feel safe and feel protected, to actually ensure that they obviously make that shopping experience a lot more enjoyable and pleasurable for the customers, so they're able to keep coming back for more. And amid this pandemic, you know, the retailer's ability to safely operate depends on their dual effectiveness when it comes to implementing their social distancing measures as well as the sanitation protocols. You know, the reality of 2020, especially with more and more countries relaxing their restrictions, primarily due to the economic strain, we do anticipate the resurgence of the virus across many parts of the world. And this is precisely why retailers must have the right precautionary measures put in place to ensure that they obviously are prepared for the second and third wave of the virus. I mean, without these, stores have no choice but to close their doors again. And I wanted to share a little snippet from the Forrester report that actually made a prediction that said due to the coronavirus, global retail sales have been impacted by an average of 9.6% decline, right? Which equates to a loss of about $2.1 trillion. Okay. Forrester also predicted that it will take 4 years for retailers to overtake pre-pandemic levels. Okay. So the essence of really my presentation today, everyone, is really to speak about how do we ensure that retailers are able to maximize both the in-store experience for their customers in a safe way, as well as navigate the change in consumer behavior. Because much like what Ika talked about in the opening, there has been a shift due to the pandemic. You know, consumers are behaving differently, consumers' priorities are different, consumer situations are different. So it's important for retailers to be cognizant of that and to be responsive to that, to encourage, you know, that continued spend from their consumers. And if you look at my screen, we've got the health measures that have been put in place here. And this really speaks to saying, how do I as a retailer ensure that when a consumer comes into my store, they actually feel safe. They actually feel that I'm taking this COVID pandemic seriously. And the retailers also ensuring that you as a customer are protected, because the reality is lots of consumers stay at home with their parents, with their aunts, people who are vulnerable to COVID. So it's important that when they do make the decision to come into your store, that you've actually complied against the health requirements. So we look at something like signposting. It's imperative that businesses harness the power of signage to convey empathy and other cultural and emotional messages. Now, signposting isn't just about saying, you know, wear your mask or stand 1.5 meters away from, you know, the person in front of you. It's really an opportunity for companies to consider adding internal communication signs that emphasize the company's values and mission. I'll give an example. I'm standing in the queue, and there was an advert on the screen that spoke to, you know, COVID-19 health, you know, protocols and how they're complying. What they did that was quite smart in terms of really sort of taking advantage of the COVID context and signposting was they infused the health message of being safe and being healthy and use that to speak to their campaign. It's the Woolies Join Facebook campaign. I think it's called the Woolies Active campaign. You know, where you get to go to the Woolies Facebook page and you're able to sign up, and there's activities and there's healthy food that you can eat and meals you can make at home. And I thought that was really, really smart, because instead of being very bland and generic about your signposting, use that as an opportunity to really speak to your consumers about the values and even the campaigns you're running in your store. So that was a really important point to mention. The next is really entrance hygiene. So when a store can convince its customers that it's genuinely clean and it takes seriously the safety of its store patrons and employees, that's half of the battle won, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I've gone into stores where, you know, they flimsily, you know, take your temperature, you know, the way you sort of complete, you know, the questions, the screening is really clumsy. And already that gives you a perspective of, you know, the store's stance on safety, the store's stance on compliance. And that might even deter you from making a repeat purchase, especially if you're someone who's experienced COVID, from going there again. So it becomes important for you to ensure that you create an experience that makes the customer feel safe. There was an article I read from the Gartner Journal that spoke about retailers that will succeed and thrive in the pandemic will ensure that the entrance hygiene complies to 5 key fundamentals. The first is an automated sanitizer. So it's important that you have that to actually allow your consumers to just help themselves to the cleaning process. Bystanders for the wipes and the trolleys, a neat and clean entry and sidewalks, and then clear signage and social distancing posting, so the customers actually see that this is something or a theme that's serious in this organization. The next step is about monitoring checkout speeds. So I think we also kind of touched on it. From a Black Friday perspective, we really want to make sure the customers come in and they're able to almost, whatever technologies you choose to deploy, are able to help themselves and actually check out. But from a compliance perspective, it's a bit different, where you say it's not only about consumers coming in and out. It's really about saying I'm monitoring how long it's taking my cashier to actually facilitate the transaction, wipe the surface, and then lead the customer out. Okay, and you can use technology to track that, to say, is my cashier, or are my cashiers on average actually complying to the average speed it takes to facilitate a transaction and wipe the counter and then come out of the store. And I think things like that, speaking to the heading of the slide, tech and retail COVID compliance, can help retailers when it comes to monitoring the compliance of their staff when it comes to COVID-19. Another interesting one is the contact tracing and store-wide social distancing. So what other retailers are actually doing is that they're choosing to adopt having their staff wear small locating devices pinned to their uniforms, right? If not pinned to their uniforms, they'll probably download an app on the employees' phones. And the purpose of this device is really to say, I want to track the movement and the whereabouts of my staff using Bluetooth technology. And what you do with that is that you obviously store that information in a centralized database and you analyze it. The value of having this process in place only comes into effect should there be an actual COVID outbreak. So if you have an employee who actually tests positive for COVID, because you've deployed this technology inside your store, you're actually able to locate who this specific employee has been in contact with, okay? And it makes it much easier for you to pinpoint other people who may have been exposed in quarantine, and by therefore default reducing the amount of time it takes the store to actually have to close again, disinfect, do the tracing process and find out, who's got it, who doesn't. The technology helps you, with precision identify who they came into contact with and which spaces within the store need to be disinfected, so you're able to open your store again, obviously resume with trading activities. And obviously the last one is maintaining sanitation inventory. That's also important. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you don't have any hand sanitizers or you don't have enough paper towels or disinfectant wipes. So again, using technology to proactively, give you a heads up as a retailer to say, actually, this is how many people we're anticipating, and this is how much stock we should have subsequent, to ensure that we're able to allow our consumers have a very safe in-store shopping experience. And I mean, Paula kind of touched on that. At Xlink, we've got the RFID solution that helps our retailers be able to keep really a pulse on their inventory, how much, where they can stock it, and where else they can source it if that particular branch actually happens to run out of the inventory they need. So that's the health measures. And the impact on that is obviously it incentivizes consumers to engage more in in-store shopping experiences. When we speak about the behavioral shifts, and I quite like this because I think this is quite critical for retailers, is that their behavior is different. Consumers are actually leaning towards buying essentials. Households have had income reductions. Some people have lost their jobs. Businesses haven't been thriving the past 6 months, and that's caused a real material impact on households and their buying decisions. And I want to explore that a bit more in my next slide, just to show you how the consumers' buying habits and priorities have shifted as a result of this pandemic. Secondly, we talk about digital and omni-channel. And the point there for me, specifically in the South African context, which is quite interesting, I think the perception is that in South Africa, data is expensive and a relatively small margin of the population is participating in the digital economy, which is actually not true. There was a report from a company called Initiate that really does stats collection in South Africa. And to contextualize this point, 58.3 million South Africans there's 58.3 million South Africans, okay, in South Africa. Of that 58.93, 103 million have got phones, which means the average South African has got more than one phone. Of that 103.5 million phones, there's an internet penetration of 36.5%, okay, which is basically 62% of the population. So in our context, the digital and omni-channel utilization is not really a function of people not having data. It's a high penetration, 62%, but really becomes a trust thing. And I think the COVID has really forced people to think about, actually, you know what? I may have not done this before, I may have not transacted online before, but because of, when lockdown 5 and you needed things, people actually had to make that decision. Okay, and I'm going to show you a couple of interesting stats in the latest slide around how that has had a resounding impact currently and futuristically as well. And then increased demand on local. So a lot more consumers are erring towards supporting local businesses. Local businesses in the sense of, is it really important for me to go and buy, a specific brand or specific food that may be imported as opposed to going to the local, grocery store, supporting the guy, the local shop who's selling whatever he's selling, and not necessarily from a price perspective, but purely because consumers are cognizant that the pandemic has really hit hard the local businesses. And so you start to find there's more of a concerted effort and drive to want to support the local guys as opposed to sort of conventionally erring towards, where you may have gone historically. And finally is a point, and I'll actually elaborate on the next slide. And finally is this concept of a home body economy. Consumers are still choosing to stay at home despite lockdowns being lifted, many consumer businesses reopening. The home really continues to be the hub of all activities. Socializing at home is still a preferred option, while connecting virtually with their friends remains a high priority across all age groups. The initial rise in, home fun activities like home cooking and baking has really gone on the incline, and it becomes important for retailers to say, how do I capitalize on this home body economy where people prefer to work from home, shop from home, socialize from home or virtually? The implication is really fivefold. The first is that it's important for retailers to then plan and prepare for a shift for the at-home and virtual medium in the short term, right? As this is the new reality. So you need to find a way of actually participating in that shift. And I think just referring back to my example about Woolies, where they talked about trying these new at-home recipes, but using Woolies ingredients was really smart. So that's just a way that retailers can be mindful of how to incorporate or take advantage of that. Consider how to serve new social and creative occasions in the home that can be formalized and commercialized through new business models or services. Important to also collaborate across industries. So Aka kind of touched on that to say the so what factor. So how do you collaborate? Who do you collaborate with? If your core offering, right, needs to be paired up with another service provider's offering to add value to the home or social front, why not consider that? And you need to think about retaining and getting new customers. So there's new customers who it's their first time going on that digital journey. How do you ensure that you make that journey really exceptional, really interesting, really seamless? That's the word we like to use. A seamless end-to-end, digital experience to ensure that they keep coming back for more, especially when it comes to the millennials, as Pearl was alluding in her introduction and opening. And lastly, review the locations and formats of your stores. So I've seen a couple of stores and banks actually decide more to closing down a couple of physical branches and really choosing to invest a lot more in their digital presence. So those are some of the implications that I think retailers need to be mindful of given the context of this pandemic. And it's important to think about it because I've been quite chuffed about more and more social conversations are more about the COVID context, which is probably going to stay with us for quite some time. There isn't a post-COVID, there's a COVID, and then the impacts of, COVID. And I think that's how we need to think about structuring our businesses and positioning our businesses to be able to operate profitably and sustainably. And the economic disruption thereof, the economic disruption really speaks to a delicate balance of how do I ensure that there isn't spend in the physical economy that I redirect that spend into the digital economy and the digital platforms. And that's what this real diagram is really trying to articulate and share. If I move on to this specific screen, really here you look at a longitudinal study, right? The time period was a little bit short, but really this is about, demonstrating what have been those sort of behavioral shifts that have impacted their consumers' shopping habits as well as impacted their choices. And what you see over here is that consumers are more mindful of wastage. A lot of them have been, at home and looking at their trash cans and seeing all the food they're eating, and asking themselves, is it necessary? Do I need all of this stuff? I need to be a little bit smart about my shopping because, the financial aspect isn't necessarily in abundance. So there's a lot more conscious thinking around that. Shopping more health consciously. So again, because of the COVID context, people are more aware and alert about their health, what they're putting into their bodies. They may have, like I said, staying at home with your mom, your grandmom, or whoever the case is. So you need to be conscious of, feeding your body health as well from this economy. Making more sustainable choices. So sustainable choices pertaining to, will I be able to afford this no matter what the lockdown restriction levels are, income situation is, will I be able to sustain this buying decision that I've made? And so you see that. Shopping more cost consciously, which is an obvious one. Can I afford it? Will I be able to afford it? Do I really need it? Shopping in closer neighborhood stores. So a lot more consumers are mindful of how close is the store to basically where I stay. Online, I'm only buying brands I know and trust. So you see people tend to have a lot more brand loyalty during these times, as opposed to essentially trying out new brands and different brands, doing fewer shops. Okay, so you don't want to find yourself, shopping between multiple platforms. And I think I've seen retailers really take cognizance of this, where you find platforms like Uber Eats used to just sell food, but are now, you've got pharmaceuticals, you've got alcohol. So that cognizance is quite interesting to note and see. Doing larger shops, okay, in other words, a one-stop shop as opposed to multiple shops, and also shopping more for others. You may need to shop for your family members that may have been in a vulnerability group. So therefore, you're shopping more for other people, not just for yourself. Yes.
Yeah, I'm really cognizant of time. I think what I wanted to ask you is, so what you're saying is that customers are not taking on digital strategies for the purpose of digitizing, right? So there is a story behind the whole decision, right? It's all about gaining insights about the demographics of their customers. It's all about getting to understand what their customers are spending their money on, right? It's all about understanding the choices, the product choices the customers are making by location, at a place and time. And all of this is helping our customers to gain the data they need for that hyper-personalizing experience, whether it be in store or online. There is the method behind the madness. And with that data, then the retailer has the ability to basically start crafting promotions and offers to their consumers in a better and well-packaged manner. Right? Is that what we're hearing from you? So Absolutely. If I look at what the likes of Pick n Pay have done with their smart shopper, cards and their loyalty cards, and being able to transition the insights that they've gleaned from their loyalty program to start providing offers on-prem and online in a hyper-personalized manner, basically starting to talk to what I spoke to about before, the know me, engage me, thrill me. I think that is what the bridging of the physical and the digital is all about.
100%. Absolutely. And I mean, I think you remind me of Gartner's powerful customer experience pyramid, which is exactly those statements, right? To say, just preempt what the customer is thinking, feeling, the experience that they want. And just to wrap up really quickly because of time, this really presentation, Pearl, speaks to the current omni-channel services customers are actually consuming now in this context and what we anticipate futuristically. And it really is an oscillation between contactless payments where customers don't necessarily want to only use physical cards. I see F&B has gone in a drive to actually go digital cards, so there is an actual contact. We make the payments. People preferring to buy, using apps, preferring home deliveries, preferring click and collect services, preferring to buy from social media platforms, preferring to actually utilize these virtual platforms, virtual consultation for services like personal health or personal styling, calling someone, websites, and the like. So this Pearl really is saying to retailers, do you have presence in these various channels? If you do, you really bolster and increase the probability and the likelihood of your customers actually, wallet share and actually being able to keep coming back and buying from you because you've got availability from all those channels. And that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, Nomonde. With that, I'd like to basically then introduce Jenny. So one of the I think insights we've gleaned from previous online promotions is the frustrations that our customers have when they've basically identified a product that they want to basically procure and only to find that it is out of stock. So we are now welcoming Jenny Pether to the floor to talk about how do our retailers get that end-to-end visibility of their supply chain, all the way back to manufacturer, all the way to the consumer. So we're talking about the B2B connected supply chain. And with that, I'd like to find out how Jenny can help our retailers have that insight in order to provide a seamless and pleasurable experience for our consumers.
Thanks so much, Pearl. Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Excited to talk to you about a topic that's very close to my heart around how we enable the organizations to have end-to-end visibility on their supply chains, but more so also including the small merchant and small supplier as well into this ecosystem. So I'm Jenny Pather. I'm the executive head for Trading Bridge, so looking after that portfolio within financial services. So really, you've heard this morning a lot about the shift in retail, but underpinning actually getting the right product to your consumer is a strong connected supply chain. And it's proved critical for organizations to have a connected supply chain in order to adapt and pivot, especially with black swan events like we've heard about today from Namanda around COVID, etc. So today's supply chains is more complex than ever. It's become a digital ecosystem of suppliers, of manufacturers, logistic companies, as well as customers. So according to the World Economic Forum, there are more than 4 trillion consumer products that are shipped and sold globally every year. But yet, end-to-end traceability of each item through its life cycle. Now, the life cycle is from raw material to manufacturing to consumer and even to recycling in certain cases is still hugely challenging for most organizations. And so what exactly do we mean by a connected supply chain? It means connecting every single aspect in that chain, drawing together disparate systems as well as partner networks, as well as business networks, to ensure that the information in that chain is firstly 100% visible, but in real time. So what this enables you to do is really create an integrated view across the supply chain. But as Pearl alluded to up front, is about the most annoying thing is going in and having an out-of-stock product. Now, to get the right product to the right shelf, to the right consumer at the right time, is totally reliant on a connected supply chain. Now, how we do that is by enabling an end-to-end visible chain. We bring together various technologies, and this could include the Internet of Things. The big data is a key component of it. But today I'm going to focus a little bit more on the B2B integration, and that really underpins bringing everything together. So moving along to why is the retail industry actually moving to B2B managed services in the cloud? It really is a shift in organizations from a digital transformation perspective, and it really is setting the backbone to support a lot of these programs. It also is enabling our retail organizations to future-proof their organizations to support the business growth. Enabling a B2B managed services cloud allows you to grow your business network. You connect once, and then your entire business network is enabled through that cloud. So it's quite key in getting that as a foundation to your future digital enablement projects. So how does it actually increase supply chain resilience? Now, I spoke about the black swan events up front, and it's quite important for you to understand that you need to make your supply chain quite resilient in order to be able to handle this. Now, what we saw in COVID was a lot of out of stocks, a lot of supply chain issues, and it was about some supply chains or organizations not being able to pivot and adapt very quickly, and not understanding the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 suppliers in their chain to be able to pivot to moving from one supplier to another supplier to actually enable it and manage that out of stocks. So what B2B in the cloud integration enables you is flexibility, to be able to make that pivot. But on top of that is collaboration with your entire supplier network. Now, this is not just with your large corporates in terms of your manufacturers bringing you product, but what about the small guy, the small supplier actually producing product? And this is where it's become more evident that, organizations need to also look local as to how do they pull in local suppliers into this chain quickly. Visibility in a supply chain allows you to do that. And then also the data insights. Being able to use this information to make decisions quickly, be able to pivot and adapt to black swan events like COVID. Now, moving on to how Trading Bridge comes into the picture. So Trading Bridge is a platform that's been in existence for over 20 years. We switch around 84 million transactions to the value of around 200 billion rands per annum. We have all the major retailers and brands in the retail FMCG industry on the platform trading on a daily basis. So what we bring to the party is really we enable these different sets of data to be pulled together and create an end-to-end visible supply chain. So typically you would have your brand, and I've used an example such as a Fudge Lady, which is a small supplier that has the same principles that needs to be applied as a large brand. So they have a sell journey. And essentially, it's getting into formal retail, such as your big retailers, but it's also looking at how do you manage the informal retailer, whether it's a spaza store that has no IT systems, whether it's a mom and pop store around the corner that has limited IT systems, or someone with a SAP system. It's bringing them into the supply chain ecosystem and connecting them to the brand, whether it's the small supplier or with a large brand, such as a Unilever in this example. But then looking at the other leg, which is the manufacturing leg, this is now bringing in the raw material suppliers, the packaging suppliers, and we provide a host of solutions on both legs, such as the traditional EDI, which is a standard to actually provide integration between systems. But then what we do is we provide mobile solutions, web solutions, as well as most recently we've introduced OCR and robotics to actually pull in manual PDFs, Excel spreadsheets into this ecosystem, and that goes into the back end of the system in the same way that they would receive from any retailer, from any supplier into the ecosystem. So we provide that consistent format into the back end. But what this allows us to do is bring this different sets of data into an end-to-end visible supply chain. This now allows you to understand where your product is selling, how your product is selling, how's your out of stock, how is your performance. So really enabling you to actually get that connected supply chain that I spoke about. So moving on to how do we enable the small merchant and the small supplier. We all know that SMEs is the beating heart of our economy, and we really need to help them, move into a digital transformation world in order to survive this pandemic. So some of the things that we're doing in the space to really include them in the ecosystem is from an informal retailer, really enabling them with solutions such as mobile ordering, payments, funding from a lending perspective, insurance, stock management, a really business in a box proposition, pulling them into that ecosystem. So then you actually know what's their requirements from a supply chain and how they're managing their stock. Are they out of stock, etc. And then on the reverse side, it's the supplier, the small SME supplier. I use the example of a Fudge Lady, someone building a few SKUs, providing that into the retail industry. How do you manage them in terms of pulling them into the ecosystem? And we provide that via a portal. Fudge Lady would log on to the portal, get full visibility of her orders, be able to transform that into an invoice that flows seamlessly into Trading Bridge, into the back end of the retailer. But what we're also doing is enabling them with funding. So if their cash flow is not working, we're able to actually profile this particular supplier and offer them invoice financing, but also how your product is doing, how your performance of that product is doing. And then finally, just to round up, we've said that a connected supply chain is critical for an organization in order to be able to pivot and adapt in circumstances like what we are in at the moment. So Trading Bridge enables you to actually bring that digital supply chain to life. But also what we're doing is enabling our brands with a route to market across Africa, and bringing the financial services aspect so that we don't forget the SME and the small supplier and merchant into this ecosystem, and also giving you that rich data insights so that you can make decisions quicker and faster, and you can pivot very quickly when you need to. So I'll leave you there today. So just a final word. We enable those smoother transactions, enabling your connected supply chain with Vodacom Trading Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. As we come closer to the end of our presentations, I'd like to encourage you customers to start posting their questions on the chat panel on the right-hand side of the screen so that we can basically resolve and clarify any of the solutions that have been presented before. If you would like to have a separate private session with any of our presenters, please also can you post it there, and we will gladly connect with you post the webinar. With that, I'd like to then introduce our last presenters, and that speaks to how we have a seamless customer experience from a physical to the online presence, how we basically engage with our customers, collect their feedback in order to delight them as they would like to be delighted and give them that pleasurable experience. I'm welcoming Mandy, who's also from one of our partner companies, Ocean 76. She's a commercial manager that basically takes care of enterprise messaging. Mandy has 15 years experience in ICT and has worked within the retail FMCG industry, so she is quite familiar with how to basically address some of the customer queries and customer challenges as we basically go phygital. And with Mandy, we've got Denver Daniels, who is a manager in the Vodacom digital sales advertising team, and has basically demonstrated a working history in the digital marketing and telecommunication industry, and has programmatic advertising knowledge within the retail and helping customers with buying media. With that, I'd like to introduce Mandy Miller and Denver Daniels. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much, Pearl. I'm going to share my screen. Hi, Denver. Hi. Thank you very much for that. I think as the retail world is changing, the way we interact with our consumers is becoming increasingly more important. Oh, wait. That's better. Sorry, technical difficulties. Again. All right. Anyway, so slowly but surely, we have different ways to interact with our customers. And from a messaging perspective, where we previously had, guys, sorry, I'm just having some, let me hide Denver. Can you see? Oh, my goodness. Shall we try again? I don't know, Denver, if you want to have a start at this, because I seem to be having a little bit of a technical issue.
Sure, no problem, Mandy. I'll share my screen.
There you go.
Okay, so let's see if this works. Do let me know if you guys can see everything okay. Great. Great. Can you guys see my screen okay, Andy? Mandy, can you see my screen all right? Great. Okay. So thank you so much, Mandy. And basically, guys, what I want to do is I just want to touch on the customer engagement section. So we've spoken about having the ability for customers to be part of the entire digital journey. And so what we're doing now is we're looking at, from an advertising perspective, how do we actually enable retailers and customers to actually connect. It's about finding the right customer and connecting them with the right message, and actually delighting them with an offer that is relevant to them at that particular moment in time. And then also maybe negating the need for them to actually go to a physical location. So just a very high level overview of an advertising ecosystem within the telco. I think there's about 21 channels, just over 2 billion advertising impressions every single month. And the nice thing that I want to highlight today is really the loyalty and rewards platform that we have, that we can employ to connect a customer with a brand, or in this case, a retailer. So I'm just going to ask the guys to go over to the video that I have prepared, and holding thumbs that everything works according to plan.
Do you want to tap into our customer network of over 4 million people that are ready to shop? Partner with Switch On Benefits and let's get your brands into their pockets. Switch On Benefits is a location-based vouchering and rewards program. Our members get the best deals in their vicinity on all our supported channels, ranging from USSD, SMS, web, app, and social. The Switch On Benefits platform is super easy and convenient to use in just 3 simple steps. The best of all, it's 100% free. Step 1. Visit www.switchonbenefits.com and scroll to the bottom of the landing page. Click on the Register as Merchant button. Register your merchant details in the fields provided to get started. Click on the blue Register button on the top right-hand corner and look out for the welcome email sent to your inbox. To complete your business profile, click on the blue Complete Registration button. Set your password to activate your account. Complete your merchant profile by clicking on the top left-hand navigation and selecting the Merchants tab. Now you can capture your company details, upload your logo, and your merchant profile is complete. Step 2. Specify your location outlets by clicking on the Locations tab just below the Merchants tab. You have to add your location before you can upload your deals. Click on the Submit button on the top right to add your location. Step 3. Now you can upload unlimited deals. Choose the advert type and complete the details of your special offer. Set the validity dates, click on the Submit button on the top right, and voila! You have just reached over 4 million people. Our members can select your offer based on their location. And bonus! If we like your deal, we'll even promote it free of charge. You get free brand exposure to potential new customers without paying astronomical advertising fees. We have an active member base from all over South Africa, with an almost 50-50 gender split. Our market consists of a young, upcoming middle class. We offer deals from various categories such as food, fashion, lifestyle, travel, coupons, and more. Our deals are updated continuously and are locally sourced. Visit www.switchonbenefits.com or call 087 4700 668 during office hours and start showcasing your exclusive benefits today.
Great, thank you so much, guys. Please let me know if you can see my presentation again. The next slide that I want to touch on is really a journey of how a customer can then be identified, presented with a particular offer, because as you saw in the video, the offers then change based on, number one, the location of the customer, the profile of the particular customer, and also the past kind of purchase information of that particular customer. So we can really personalize an offer to a particular customer in a particular location, in a particular segment. And I think that's really, really exciting, because it allows for very little wastage in terms of not only advertising budget, but in terms of eyeball attention. So customers these days are very, very overwhelmed with the amount of advertising that they receive every single day. And so when you are able to make the advertising not only relevant, but also relevant for that particular moment in time for the customer journey, it becomes a very compelling offer. And also we've seen a very high adoption rate on new offers that has been presented to customers. On this slide, we have the ability to employ a host of advertising channels. So as an example, we have the ability to employ text-based advertising. So that's advertising that you would normally see like an SMS or a please call me, but we also have the ability now to overlay quite a significant amount of targeting, and then it allows us to become really relevant to the retailer. So if a retailer in a particular area is looking to speak to a particular customer, we can definitely put them in front of that customer on their mobile device with an offer that will be compelling for the customer to actually act upon. But then the digital journey then also continues in the sense where we now have the ability to drive that particular customer to a digital platform. And I will speak to that in a little bit in the next slide. So in this slide, we've actually mocked up a digital engagement or customer activation journey where we've actually worked with a fast food restaurant chain, and taking all of the important digital touch points into account, we've employed all of the advertising capabilities that we have from the Vodacom digital advertising business, and we've actually taken the requirement for a customer to come into the store, and we've taken that to a digital environment or a mobile environment. So now we have the ability to drive, as we see here, number one, flash deals, where the customer can actually get a particular deal based on their shopping or based on their purchase behavior in the past. We can drive particular awareness of events. We can actually create a particular wallet, and from that wallet, drive customer engagement and behavior. And then within the broader advertising business, we also have the ability to then drive a customer with a particular digital reward. So being aligned to segmentation, we have the ability now to say to a brand that if you are wanting to speak to a particular customer base and know that the propensity for them to actually engage with music content as opposed to video content is a lot higher, we can actually do that dynamically and reward the customer in that way. Again, driving either footfall or driving adoption of digital deals. So that is really my last slide. That's where I want to leave it. If there are any questions, please do feel free to post them in the comment section, and I will now hand over back to Mandy. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, I am back and hopefully without any further technical difficulties. So as I was saying previously, it's becoming more and more important for us to now, our consumers are all over the place. So we need to be able to seamlessly still interact with them and reach them via some sort of communication method without them being in our stores. So marketing communication, as you guys know, trends come and go. And funnily enough, one of the ones that stood the test of time is bulk SMS. As I said before, there is, at this point in time, we've transacted about 7 billion SMSs via the Vodacom platform. Last year, 1.2 billion SMSs went through our platform. So the research also shows that about 98% of SMSs that are sent are read. And of that, 90% are read within 3 minutes. Essentially, most people have their phones on them and they're waiting for a message. So irrespective of your phone, whether it's a smartphone or a feature phone, with SMS, you will always be able to get reached. So we've got a few various products available. Normal bulk SMS is as you send it. Campaign Manager is a tool that will allow you to schedule very specific marketing campaigns and have all of the reports that come back to give you some insights on that. This is something that most of the SMEs use. I think Denver's got a few other solutions that bolt onto this. So that's bulk SMS. consumers have evolved, where previously, the business or the brand stipulated how they will communicate with the customer. Slowly but surely that has changed, and the consumer now dictates where and when they want to receive what kind of comms from a brand or a business. I think we've seen smartphone penetration go up from 43% in 2016 to about 91% last year. I think ICASA recorded 53.4 million smartphones as of September last year, which is just a few million short of our actual population. This created the need for us to create a true omni-channel method to enable consumers to seamlessly interact with a brand or business using their own platform of choice. Essentially, this will be our corporate IM solution, and it's available on various of the platforms: WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Skype, and Telegram. And it gives the consumer an additional way to receive information. So from your side as a brand or a business, you have one way of interacting with the consumer, and on their side, they will receive it in whichever channel they prefer. The corporate IM is the big thing at the moment. They also consumer decides on which channel they prefer to get what kind of communication. I know some people prefer personal communication on one channel and all of your business stuff on another. And this is why the omnichannel kind of campaign for corporate IM came into play. So next we have, as my previous colleagues mentioned to us, everybody in South Africa, we are quite worried about money. And as a result of the impact of COVID-19, a lot of consumers are defaulting on honoring credit commitments. Retail charge accounts, we found, is really not at the top of people's list to pay when you have limited funds available. And previously, statements were sent via email. And we realized that people don't really even immediately open their email, or they read it when they have time. Where if you have your cell phone in your hand, like we do, we've created the mechanism for you to share statements with your customer on their actual phone. So essentially, true to the full omni-channel communication method, they can then access that statement irrespective of their phone, whether it's on bulk SMS or if it's on a USSD, on IM, however they wish to receive it on their mobile device, they can get their statement. Over and on top of that, they will be able to pay directly from the statement, which is something we've added because previously, you get your statement, you can have a look at it, but you still need to leave that specific environment to go and do a payment. Where now this is built into it. If the consumer decides to pay right there, they can click on the link and it'll take them straight through the payment process. With the reports that come, it's live reporting and gives you some kind of logic to work with. And what we've done for some of the customers is where we know that a statement was opened and read. With that information, they then, in about 7 days or so, they can check whether the payment was made. If no payment was made yet, they can send another SMS to prompt you for payment. So it's slowly but surely you get in front of managing all of those kinds of payments that need to come in. Then one of the other instances where we find this very important is in the insurance industry, your life insurance, all of those kinds of insurance where your cover actually lapses when you miss a payment. So what we've done with a few of these customers is they send a payment reminder, after their debit order run has completed, and whoever defaulted on debit orders, they will send them an SMS or via an IM also reminding them that they have defaulted, and that within 7 days, if no payment is made, they will have lapse in their cover. Again, we can see whether or not it was read or not. And if not read, it kind of prompts the outbound call center to make a call and find out, is there any problems? If someone accidentally or, just by chance, your debit order didn't go through, it gives you another chance to make a payment without losing any of the insurance cover that is, that's part of the plan. Then lastly, I think for in the retail FMCG specific space, data cost is at top of mind for everybody. And I think that specifically is a big barrier to entry for most people to join the digital marketplace. So what we have available to brands and companies out there is the ability to reverse bill any data charges on either a website or part of a website or even your mobile app. So this essentially gives the consumer a way to interact with the brand, even partake in the e-commerce, in the whole supply chain, and do purchases without having an impact on their data bundle. And this actually, we've seen this quite successful with a lot of specific promotions where you can navigate through a site and get to a specific place in the site, and only that place is reverse billed, or an entire application, a place in the application where only certain functionalities is available, and your actual consumer will be able to browse through all of that and do the necessary things without worrying about the fact that they're not going to have data. So it's becoming all inclusive, including anybody from a feature phone all the way through to a smartphone, to become part of the essential digital e-commerce world that we're living in at the moment. And I think that's as much as I have for us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Folks, we've come to the end of our presentations today. We have gleaned some insights based on the polls that have been responded to during the sessions. And thank you very much for engaging with us, because in the true retail spirit that Vodacom is, we would like to learn from you, would like to engage, and we would really like to delight you with our future webinars by providing you with the insights that are relevant to you. And we would also like to share the information after the presentation. So if you can either post some of your questions or requirements on the chat still on the presentation, it will be open for another 20 minutes, failing which you can still contact us via your account managers who will provide you with the presentations and the insights, and then we can engage further. With that, given the fact that we are a bit over time, I'd like to thank each and every single one of you for engaging with us and participating in this webinar. And we're looking forward to engaging with you guys in the third series, which will be coming up hopefully in the January timeframe. So until then, thank you very much from everybody at Vodacom and our partners, Deloitte.